Welcome into Big East Fast Break at the Big East Road Show. Hi everybody, Megan Caffrey. So happy to be joined with you today ahead of today's game with the Villanova Wildcats hosting the Seton Hall Pirates. A good one on tap. It is slated to tip off at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Big East Digital Network on Flow Hoops. Matt Janus and the legendary head coach Harry Perretta will be on the call for this one. A really important matchup when you're looking at these two teams. It's February hoops officially, and there's a lot on the line. When you look at Villanova, they are coming off of a Wednesday night loss against UConn, and then the Seton Hall Pirates team, they've been playing a little bit more consistent as of recently, having won 2 of their last 3 games most recently, coming off of a win against Georgetown on Wednesday night. We'll talk a little bit more of today's game here in just a bit. Also coming up, guess who's joining me at the desk? Maddie Segrist, the all-time leading scorer in Villanova women's basketball history. But first, let's start with our headlines for today. And we start looking at the top of the league with the UConn Huskies. We're about halfway through conference play, and the Huskies are undefeated, 10-0 in conference play. And UConn doesn't really have too much of an easy road to finish the regular season. However, when you do look at their matchups with the other top teams in the league, get this. You look at their first meeting against Marquette, which was in late December. They beat them by 31 points. Following up immediately after that game, they played also ranked Creighton, who was 21 at the time, beat them by 44 points. And most recently this past week, UConn did finish off the regular season sweep over the Huskies with a win 85-55. We'll see UConn back in action tomorrow afternoon as they take on St. John's. Now let's move to our second headline, which has been one of my favorite things to talk about all season long. It's back time, baby, in Friartown with their new head coach, Erin Bath. She has come in and really just revived this Friars program, and they have been hot as of recent, having won 3 of their last games. They're currently 5th in the league at 5-4 in league play. And when you look at this Friars team, a big difference maker has been the return of Grace Afosa. She missed 11 games earlier this season due to injury. She's been back in the lineup for the Friars. And how about this for a nugget? With the Big East Player of the Week in their lineup, the Friars have a better scoring average. They're averaging 65.5 points with her, and without her, 55.5 points per game. She has just been a key cog to this Friars team. And speaking of key cogs, well, we got to talk a little bit. Lucy Olson here at Villanova. She has been a key cog for this Wildcats offense, and she is making a pretty solid mark for herself as the Big East Player of the Year. She has been just incredible for this Wildcats team, and she's leading the league in scoring, averaging just over 23 a game. And in speaking with her head coach, Denise Dillon, well, Denise talked to me about Lucy's growth this season, saying Olson has learned to play with better pace this season, and instead of just thinking fast, 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 more, she's able to completely recognize what the defense is giving her, and you have been able to see that in her offensive production. And also, she's probably learned a thing or two from her former teammate, Maddie Segrist, who will be joining me on the desk here. We cannot wait for that conversation. It's coming up here after the break. You are not going to want to miss this one.
Warm hot dogs.
When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh, warm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Yeah, the time keeps ticking. Life's mad short, so we gotta keep living. Hey, hey, so turn it up. Hey, hey, don't never stop. When the party, when the fun, bring the juice. All the haters, all the players coming loose. It's time to shine, best believe. Yeah, it's time to shine, yes indeed. And my girls, now let's roll. We're turning it up. Yeah, it's time to go. Where the party at? Gonna bring some soul. Yeah, we hit it with the good stuff, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, where the party at? Where the party at?
Into Big East Fast Break that I'm now joined with Maddie Seegers, the all-time leading scorer for Villanova women's basketball. Maddie, we have talked plenty throughout your time with Villanova. However, you're coming off of your rookie season with the Dallas Wings. When you kind of put that in hindsight and in perspective, we'll start with Villanova basketball and playing in the Big East. How did that really prepare you for your journey that you've got in the pros?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's just been so exciting. It's been such a dream come true this last year, and Villanova has prepared me, not only as a basketball player, but as a person as well. And I think, that comes with, self-discipline and then discipline from our coaches and just how to continue to push yourself. And, shout out to Denise and Coach Harry for, always, pushing me to be the best player I could be. And that's definitely prepared me.
And you were also down in Dallas, okay? You're a Northeast girl like myself, so the pace is a little bit slower down there. What was it like getting to experience the culture, a little bit of a new city?
Well, definitely a lot better barbecue, for sure. But so cool. The people are so nice there. Definitely a slower pace than New York and Philly, for sure. A lot hotter, too.
Yeah.
120 is a real 120. New York, I think maybe we get to 100 once every 3 years, and it's like, no one can believe it, but 120 is real hot.
You were able to come back to your alma mater here at Villanova in a little bit of a new role this season. How would you describe what the journey's been like to come back to Villanova and how you kind of have seen the game at a different perspective?
I mean, it's been like a full circle moment when Denise had called me in July and said, we'll have an opportunity for you to come back if you want. I knew that this year this was something I wanted to do. I wanted to really just train my body and, recover from, your first pro season and 5 years in college. But it's just been great. And to be able to, see the game from more of, a coaching lens almost has helped my own game grow. Because you see more things, I think, when you watch than when you play, for sure.
Well, and speaking of that, Maddie, you were able to accomplish one of your dreams. I think we got to look around today. You were able to see it plenty when you were playing here at Villanova. There are so many young girls looking up to you. And when you have your Dallas Wings games, there are so many young girls looking up to you. How cool is it, speaking of a full circle moment, for you to be able to sit back and be like, I used to be that little girl looking up to me, and now I'm her? Yeah,
I mean, it's so cool. I feel like just yesterday, I was playing 5th grade CYO and just trying to beg my parents, this Saturday 8 a.m. games, and now, I love taking the time, whether it's at Villanova games this year, I have more time to really, talk to the young kids at the games, and, after the Wings games as well. So I always try to take the time because, that was me, and, that time is so influential in your life, so really just trying to take that time for those kids.
Okay, let's talk a little bit hoops now, okay? You're a pro. You're an expert, all right? So we have to get your take on the league. Let's look at the Big East Conference as a whole when you're looking at the competition and where the league is at right now today. What's your take on it?
I mean, I think the Big East is one of the top conferences for sure. I know just, the physicality of it, the talent, 1 through 11 is great, and seeing that not only as a player but now being able to reflect on that, I think it's just great for the game. There's so many strong players, and that's what our game needs.
Can we put you on the spot a little? Can we talk a little NCAA tournament predictions,
why not?
Final Four? What are we thinking? Do you have can I get a little? I know it's early, but let's get a bracket. Give me your Final Four.
I think South Carolina's great.
Yeah, of course.
I think they're going to be a tough team. After seeing USC last night with Juju Watkins, they're definitely going to be up there. They're going to be tough. I want to say Iowa. I like watching them play. Caitlin Clark's obviously great, and I'll rep the Big East. We'll go UConn.
Woo, we love
Put them in there.
We love it. Coming up after you, I am going to be able to also speak to another Villanova great, Katie Davis. So can you kind of tell me a little bit about her when you were kind of, coming up and you were able to look at some Villanova greats that you were able to aspire to? What do you remember from Katie Davis's game?
I mean, there's so many great players to play at Villanova, and, playing for Harry the first few years, he always likes to tell you about them, and he always,
of course.
Draws upon them, and that, she always did this, she always did that, and Katie Davis is one of the players he always said had the perfect shot. He was surprised every time she missed, and I know she made, I think, almost the most threes, more threes than I've ever made, a ton of threes. But just, she always comes back to the program, and I think when you have alums come back, that speaks volumes to not only them, but the program as well.
Yeah, and you right there, you are one of them, Maddie.
I know, it's so weird.
So weird. You're an alum, girl. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. Coming up next after this break, Katie Davis joins the set.
To celebrate Black History Month,
Big East Basketball is proud to partner with the Black Fives Foundation
to help preserve, showcase, honor, and teach
the rich history that's helped shape the game we love today. From 1904 to 1950, the Black Fives created a
nationwide barnstorming circuit of independent teams.
These teams fostered hope and unity during a time of segregation and systematic oppression.
The Black Fives played in many of the same cities as our Big East schools: New York,
Chicago, D.C., Philadelphia,
and other cities with substantial African American population.
The men and women of the Black Fives era.
Let's not forget,
it wasn't just the men who blazed this trail
and opened the doors for generations of Black players and coaches.
This year, we honor these pioneers by sharing their stories
and teaching their history.
We honor them by preserving their legacy and continuing to make history of our own.
Join us in celebrating their stories.
Welcome back into Big East Fast Break at the Big East Road Show. And you want a chance to come to the Big East Women's Basketball Tournament or the Big East Men's Basketball Tournament at Madison Square Garden? Well, you can get the chance to win an all-expense trip paid to either the men's or the women's tournament. You must be 18 years or older. Click the link on the screen to apply. And now I get to welcome in our second guest to the set, Katie Davis, who was the captain of the 2003 Villanova team that won the Big East tournament. Katie, you are back here at Villanova. I was able to also meet your daughter a little bit before, but let's take a trip down memory lane. When you look at your time playing for the Wildcats, how do you put that into perspective, what that experience was like?
Oh wow, it's kind of hard to put it into perspective.
Yeah.
So many thoughts go through my mind. It was such a fun time and a cool experience. We going to the Elite Eight, ultimately losing to Tennessee, but we in the process got to meet Coach Pat Summitt, a legend, beating UConn, ending their then impressive 70-game winning streak for the Big East Championship. So it was just a good time. Honestly, when I look back, I think about the memories off the court. You know, the road trips, the camaraderie with my teammates, my family coming to all my games, near or far. So it was a great time. I love it.
Well, I love that you brought up memories off the court. When you were on the court, you were a leader. You were a captain of the team.
Yeah.
How did you take some of those skills that you learned as a leader of the team into your life off of the court?
There's so many things that you take away from playing basketball. Some of them, work ethic, teamwork, working with a team, recognizing everyone on your team has a role, and valuing that role and trying to inspire them to be their best. It's all important in the success of a team. So just carrying that over to now, my work, my kids, these are all pep talks I have with them.
Well, and speaking of your kids, all of your kids play hoops too.
Yes.
So kind of take me through, where are our kids at in basketball right now? Are we going to have some Villanova Wildcats here someday?
They're just starting out. They're young. They're 10, 8, and 6. So they're just starting out, but we come to all the games, so they love it. It's a great atmosphere. Villanova does just such a wonderful job of making it fun for them. So they love it. It's making them love the game even more.
When you look at the game specifically of women's basketball, you haven't been out of school for too long, but how do you see the growth that this game has made since your time playing?
Thanks for saying that, by the way. Make me feel young. No, it's been remarkable. It's the visibility, the publicity, the media coverage, the recognition that the women athletes get now. It's awesome to see. The talent pool is deepening. Makes every game exciting. You come to games now and the stands are crowded and packed, and I just love it. And like I said, we bring the kids, and I can't wait to see it continue moving up.
Yeah, and we've got a good game here this afternoon. So Katie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
This week, we are so excited for our second rendition of the Big East Female Forward broadcast. It was actually here last season. I had such a blast being on the call for that game. And now this year, the Female Forward broadcast goes this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, to Marquette as the Golden Eagles host Georgetown. It will be on FS1 with Lisa Byington and Kim Adams on the call. You do not want to miss it. It is Female Forward from the ladies on the call to the camera operators, our producer, our director, everyone. It is such a special treat. We are certainly looking forward to that one. And we've got a lot more coming up here after this break. Don't go away.
We're looking forward to our second female forward game on February 7th, National Girls and Women in Sports Day, featuring Marquette and Georgetown.
For me, whenever I'm at events like that, I get really kind of reflective. I think back on my days coming up in the sports world, how I didn't really have many women to look up to see now how women are so entwined with sports in so many different ways. Because I didn't have many women to look up to when I was coming up the ladder, I sort of take this personally. I really do feel a role and a responsibility to make sure that the women who are, following have a chance to shine. Interestingly, the Big East has now 22 sports that we sponsor. 12 of them are women's sports. We've really put a stake in the ground in terms of supporting the female student athletes in our league, 2,000 of them across our 11 schools.
We think this is turning into a wonderful opportunity to showcase all the ways that women are leading in the game of basketball, whether it's on the sidelines, whether it's as game referees, scores table personnel, as broadcast production workers, and importantly, as administrators in college athletics. So we know it'll be a great game, and we thank Marquette, most of all, for agreeing to host this important event for the conference and for their efforts in bringing attention to how far women have advanced in the sports business.
If there's a day of the year that sort of brings all of that together and we can celebrate all the things that have been done, then it's a holiday worth celebrating.
To celebrate National Girls and Women in Sports Day,
we would like to say thank you.
Thank you to the Trailblazers who led the way.
And to the coaches and administrators who supported them.
Thank you for breaking barriers.
And for shattering glass ceilings. You have inspired generations of young girls.
And shown there were no limits to what we can achieve.
We are committed to continuing your legacy.
Of fighting for equality in sports.
And a level playing field. Because when we empower girls and women,
everyone wins.
We are back on the floor of the Finneran Pavilion ahead of today's matchup with Villanova hosting Seton Hall, and it is starting to get loud in here. We cannot wait, and I'm also really excited because I've got another special guest coming to the desk. Legendary head coach Harry Peretta is going to be joining me. He's actually doing a little bit of broadcast work right now because he is on the call with Matt Janus for that game that's tipping off at 2 p.m. Eastern time here at the Finn. We can't wait, but let's talk a little bit more about this matchup. I'll get Coach's take here in just a moment, but keys to the game. This matchup is the second meeting between these two teams, and the first meeting, well, Villanova, Lucy Olson, was held to just 10 points by the Seton Hall Pirates. So the big question here is who is going to be kind of that second, that third role player for the Villanova Wildcats? Seton Hall did a really great job defensively on Lucy last meeting, so who's going to be able to step up? And one player in particular who might be able to do that is the freshman for Villanova, Maddie Weber. She's been having more of a significant role on this team. When you look at her production, get this, she's moved into the starting role for the last 2 games, and she averaged 11.5 points per game over the last 7 games since they played one another. When she came into that first original matchup, well, she was averaging just under 8. So she has been this really great component to this Villanova offense since then. And then when you look at Seton Hall, well, will their defense travel? The Pirates' defense is one that's 3rd in the league in steals per game. They average just under 10. So can they find their offensive opportunities today coming off of their strong defense? And get this, I love this for a nugget. In their first game against Villanova, the Pirates finished with just 4 points off turnovers. However, in their win over Georgetown this Wednesday, they had 32. I think in speaking with head coach Tony Bizzella, he would say that the Pirates did miss some opportunities in their first meeting against Villanova. However, today they are feeling a little bit stronger. They're feeling that consistency start to click a little bit more. So the Pirates have struggled with some injuries, specifically in their forward space. They've had players in and out of that role, and their offense really does travel through their forward. So we'll see what's able to happen with that. And we're going to have head coach Harry Peretta join us in just a sec. We're going to take another quick break here, and then Harry Peretta is joining me at the set. Tune in.
To celebrate Black History Month,
Big East Basketball is proud to partner with the Black Fives Foundation
to help preserve, showcase, honor, and teach
the rich history that's helped shape the game we love today. From 1904 to 1950, the Black Fives created a
nationwide barnstorming circuit of independent teams.
These teams fostered hope and unity during a time of segregation and systematic oppression.
The Black Fives played in many of the same cities as our Big East schools:
New York, Chicago, D.C., Philadelphia,
and other cities with substantial African American population.
The men and women of the Black Fives era.
Let's not forget,
it wasn't just the men who blazed this trail.
And opened the doors for generations of Black players and coaches.
This year, we honor these pioneers by sharing their stories
and teaching their history.
We honor them by preserving their legacy and continuing to make history of our own.
Join us in celebrating their stories.
Welcome back into Big East Fast Break. After much anticipation, I've got head coach Harry Peretta here. Coach, you're getting ready to call this game. You're on the other side of things after coaching for so long.
Yep.
So first and foremost, what's it been like as a broadcaster? How much do you love this role?
It's fun for me, Megan. It gives me a chance to be like a part of the game.
Yeah.
And then the only problem is I find myself coaching the game sometimes on both ends, both teams. So I got to be careful of doing that on the air.
Okay, well, speaking of coaching the game, I just gave a couple of my keys to today's game. I want to hear your keys to today's game when you're looking at this match.
Well, the keys to the game for Villanova are always pretty similar. How Lucy Olson plays. And if she can get off to a good start, usually Villanova gets off to a good start. And then they need her point production. So we'll see how she does on that. On the other side, I think rebounding is really important for Seton Hall if they can control the boards. And the other thing Tony Bizzella told me is that they need to shoot more foul shots. So that tells me they're going to throw the ball inside a lot more.
I was able to talk to two of your former players, Maddie Siegrist and Katie Davis, a little bit earlier. They said, you're always one to talk about great stories of the players at practice. So I need to have one story about Maddie and one story about Katie.
Oh, God. Well, Katie Davis was really funny. When she was a freshman, and sometimes freshmen do this, they look in the stands at their parents, and we were up at Penn State, and we were down like 18 points or something. And I said, Katie, he can't help you right now. I said, I'm your only hope. So I thought that was a really good story. And we just laughed. And then Maddie, oh, my God, I got a million Maddie stories, but I said it was the LaSalle game. When she was a freshman, she had 41. And something after the game, I'm ripping her about everything she did wrong. And then I found out that she had 41 points. And I said, not a bad game, not bad.
It's okay.
It's all right. Do the other things right, will you?
Well, Coach, when you're looking at the state of the conference, the state of the league within women's basketball, how do you now on the other side of things see how Big East women's basketball is constantly elevating, is constantly getting more competitive?
Well, I see it, like last year, the Big East probably had one of its best seasons ever, okay? They had 6 teams in the Big East tournament, in the NCAA tournament. And from the outside, you can kind of watch the recruiting's a little different now. The NLI really throws things for a whack because some teams can get really good in a year, and other teams can fall off a lot in the year because when you take players for 1 year, you might lose 4 seniors in a year. So the league is fighting with that right now, but it's holding its own because if you look at the net rankings, we have like 6 or 7 teams in the top 100. So that's really, really good. So again, it's easier for me to see from the outside because when I was in it, I was just worried about my team. now I can see how it's helping all the other teams.
Okay, well, let's look at these two teams a little bit more, Coach, and some players to watch that we have for today's game. Okay, first looking at Villanova in Zanaya Jones. Talk to me a little bit about her, what you've seen from her most recent production.
Yeah, she does a little bit of everything, okay? She defends, she helps out rebounding, she can score the ball, she distributes the ball.
Yeah.
So what she does for them is it's like almost what Lucy Olson does for Villanova, but she doesn't score as much. That's all.
And I was speaking with head coach Denise Dillon a little bit about her as well, and she spoke about her defensive production and how she's been able to read the defense so well, which is, she said she's been able to take a step back, learn a little bit from Lucy as well in that sense.
Right, and like I said, like, she just does those things instinctively.
Yeah.
So hopefully, she'll get better and better at it.
Okay, now let's turn the page. Let's look at Seton Hall. You cannot talk about this Seton Hall team without talking about Azana Payne.
Right. I mean, again, she dominates the game outside and inside. She's a, I don't know how you explain it. She's a utility player, not in that she doesn't play a lot, in that she does a little bit of everything. She can rebound, she can play guard, she can play forward, she can post. So that gives her the versatility, and that's what I used to call a utility player for us, somebody that can do everything.
And what I love in speaking with head coach Tony Bozzella about her specifically is he talked about her consistency and her want to get better. He said she meets with the coaching staff to go over things to how can she improve, how can she get better. And he said two things that specifically stuck out to me of how she could get into a solid routine and get more organized. And he said you have been able to see that in her production this season, which I think is a huge compliment.
And again, that's what all good players do. They're organized, they're consistent. He also told me something very interesting. He was the most unselfish star player he's ever coached. And let me tell you something. I tell coaches this all the time. You would rather have a player learn how to be selfish than be selfish and have to teach him not to be selfish. So that's a really great compliment that Tony gave her.
I love that, Coach. Well, I'm hearing the band playing in the background, so that means I got to let you
Okay, I got to get back.
He's got a game to call, a pretty important game to call. Coach, as always, thank you so much for
Good to
joining.
see you, Megan.
Good to
Take
see
it
you,
easy.
too. We'll be back with more to wrap this thing up and get ready for the game after this.
Fresh, warm hot dogs. When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh farm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Welcome back, and if you want a chance to win an all-paid trip to either the Big East Men's Tournament or the Big East Women's Tournament at Mohegan Sun Arena, I'll be at both of them, so I really want to be able to see you. You can enter for a chance to win. We've got a sweepstakes going on, all expense paid trip. You have to be 18 years or older to apply. You can click the link there. Both of these tournaments are such a blast. We start things off at Mohegan Sun Arena with the women's and then wrap up at the world's greatest arena for the men's tournament. March is going to be here before we know it. We cannot wait for it. So you better enter as many times as you can. I don't know. Maybe there might be a minimum, but we'll see. Let's take a look one more time before we get into today's matchup of the standings. Where are we at in Big East play? We mentioned before that UConn is at the top, but then when you're looking at the middle of the pack, there is so much basketball yet to be played and still so much movement that can happen. That is why today's game is so important for Villanova and Seton Hall. So you can head over to the Big Big East Digital Network. That's on Flow Hoops. That is where our game here is going to be tipping off. That is going to be tipping off at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Matt Janus and Harry Peretta on the call. You just heard him talk about all the things that you'll have to look forward to today, and this was such a blast. Thank you for joining me at the floor of the Finneran Pavilion. We got to get in there. The band is playing. Everyone's ready. I'm going to go get some Chicky and Pete's crab fries and get ready for today's matchup. Thank you so much for joining us for Big East Fast Break at the Big East Roadshow.